You're like, I'm fine. And then one day you wake up and it hits and you're like, oh, I'm very much not.
Yeah.
I'm not doing okay. And everybody else around you's like, yeah, you're not doing okay. We've known.
Well, get into some of this upbeat sad boy rock.
Yes.
I've been finding new ways to give my time to others. Been reaching out to friends, reworking loose ends tonight. I've been moving all around, I might settle down with a lover. That's right, I found another who loves what you left behind. So I won't write about you. No, not anymore. No more, no more. No, not anymore. No more, no more. Won't crawl back to your door. Those days are through. So best believe this song is not for you. I've been spending.
Cool. And maybe the first thing to talk about is this intro. It has a very chorale-like quality to me. You know?
Yeah.
And it's something that you come back to later in the bridge section.
Yeah.
But other than that, it doesn't. We don't hear it as like part of the main body of the tune.
I didn't want to just start the song right on the riff, the main riff there.
Mm-hmm.
It just felt, I don't know, there was something about, these chords in the upper part of the piano and trying to just make something sweet and beautiful that like led right into coming in hard with this song.
Yeah. We had played this song live a handful of times, but I think that when you first sent me we said, okay, we're going to make a recording of it.
Yeah.
Why don't you, record a demo to click and then we can start building from there.
Yeah.
And I think that's when I first heard this intro.
Okay.
And then at some point during producing and recording this album, I think I came to you and was like, I think this is the intro of the whole album.
Yeah. Yeah, it made us which now is a separate track itself,
Yeah.
Which it's so nice to listen to it in full because it goes beautifully, transitions right into the song perfectly. But also, this is going to be a separate track as sort of a prelude, we were calling it.
Yeah. I love how it sets the table. The whole album starts with just piano, right? But pretty quickly we have the strings and the trumpet come in.
Yeah. It's
but then
so
we don't
pretty.
Get them
until
halfway through the song.
Yeah, and I love that the synth comes right into out of nowhere. It's so contrasting with like the strings and the trumpet because this whole record, like we've talked about before, does feel more like cinematic and it's more orchestrated. It's the first time having like the strings compared to the last record, which you did before. Yeah. I mean, your arrangements are incredible.
Thanks, dude.
But I love that then it goes into like the original idea with Not For You was I always thought it felt like I was like this like Boys of Summer downhill like synthy vibe. That was like the first thing, just like the riff over and over but with the moving bass. Totally. And having the synth in there is great, but it's funny to hear it now because even though they are very contrasting instruments, it works so well. I love that there's that bit of contrast for the intro and then it drops into it with the synth. And
contrast is so important. Like if what we are doing in music a lot of the time is setting up expectations and then subverting them.
Yes.
And sometimes fulfilling them, maybe.
Yeah.
A lot of it is about leading someone in one direction and then veering in another. And it makes me think of
you can't put me in a box.
Exactly.
That's what I'm trying to say.
A friend of mine, Solomon Dorsey, is an amazing bassist, producer, writer, many things. Yeah. He once told me, he's also an amazing chef. And so this came up in a conversation when he was cooking, that the things that he loves about food and cuisine are the same things that he loves about music, and how he loves something in which like there are distinct flavors that nonetheless go together but have their recognizable.
Yeah, yeah.
And also how like it's nice to get a little taste of something just to whet your appetite, to set your palate for the rest. And so I feel like that's a lot of what this intro does, is setting your palate not just for the song but for the whole album. And then slam, we get like the 4 on the floor kick drum and synths and the piano lick and everything.
Yeah, 100%
here. So it sounds like to start off, we've got, you're playing that main lick on the piano. Oh no, you're not even playing it on the piano at the start. We just have this.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah, we saved.
I'm so used to
how you do it live.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we first get that on the synth. Very 80s.
Very.
And double by guitar.
That's great. That's something I feel like I learned a lot from you, which I love in the recording process. You can remove some aspect, especially with the piano, because I've always been somebody who like plays a lot. I feel like it's very busy. And so I loved that there were many moments throughout the song, including there, where you'd be like, how about you don't have to be doing that. We don't need that part right now. I mean, it's going to be coming in. Or there's always been moments where it's like, well, why don't you simplify what you're playing here in order to help with the dynamics, or to bring out some of the other instrumentation. And that was something that I felt like I've learned a lot from you in regards to when we've been doing this stuff. And it also, then it really does. I'm always like, but I want to be playing that part. But then you listen to it and it's like, it doesn't need the piano there, It doesn't need, we don't need that riff on top of the synth doing that riff. You know?
And it gives you room to build. Because then when the piano comes back to it later, it feels more full.
Exactly.
Or
it's a nice surprise, like to the listener, it's like, oh wow, I didn't hear that. I haven't heard that this whole time, you know?
And I think also, I mean, talking about setting up expectations, you set up the expectation that this is going to be a piano record.
Yeah.
And then we lose the piano from the top of the song up until the first pre. Yeah. And that allows us to have a piano entrance at the first pre.
Yeah.
So I won't
and the texture changes
about you.
Yeah.
Like in the past, a lot of the stuff was more like piano rock, piano pop, and I felt trying to go in a different sort of direction here. It was like, oh, let's use more. It felt more guitar and drum driven with this song, which I loved. It did have more of a, I don't know if like punkier feel is right, but like it just felt a little like a little harder.
Sure.
And it didn't feel like the piano had to necessarily be the main character, always.
It's something it's not appropriate to do often, but to like go to playing double stops on the bass, fifths with a pick, it's a bit more of a punk approach to things.
Yeah.
So this is just the bass and drums and guitars.
Jamie Eblen. Killing it.
Throughout the record, I think more than your first record, I wound up using a lot more of these types of transitions. Like this track, we have sweeps, impacts.
Sweep.
Sweep.
Wow.
Just like a very electronic approach to production. You'll even see that there's another track here of snares that I guess I used to reinforce some of the drums. Very electronic clap kind of stuff. So layered with the drums.
That's great. Yeah.
So that's like a pretty...
I didn't even realize. I love that you can't even, when you listen to the track as a whole, you don't necessarily like pick up on that individually. And I didn't even realize those are in there, but it adds so much.
I think it creates like excitement and depth, and you want to feel it more than hear it. It's definitely a contemporary pop approach to things, but at the same time, the drums are very not contemporary pop. They're very, this is drums. Listen to the drums. It's not just programming vibe.
Yeah.
We've got these two sets of synths, the one that we heard at the start, and then that starts
the Juno
outlining those chords. And on top of that, we've got this warm...
Oh, I love it. Yeah.
Who doesn't love a good 80s Juno vibe? Yeah, I think we played around with those octaves as we get into the song as well. Let's keep going and see what this pre-chorus is like.
What you left behind. So I won't write about you. No, not anymore. No more, no more. No, not anymore. No more, no more. Won't crawl back to your door. Those days are gone. So best believe this song is not for you.
Yeah.
I remember it was always tough arrangement wise, not going full steam.
Yeah.
Even though I feel like it wants to, but trying to figure out, even with what Jamie's doing on the drums, it feels a little more, it's more like reserved than maybe like going full in, which is exactly what needed to happen there,
Yeah. I think if you have a driving verse, which I think this song does, although we made it driving but also very bare.
Yeah.
I think to have a pre-chorus that comes down allows you to have a chorus that hits harder.
Yeah.
And that, sometimes maybe that's not the choice. Sometimes it's nice to have a chorus come down. That's like a little bit more of the dance music influence that I feel we've been getting in the last 10, 15 years.
Yeah.
But in this case, like, your chorus has these big vocal jumps, right? No more, no more.
Yeah.
And we want to go to this hard-hitting drum thing. I feel like Jamie's playing really steps up in the chorus.
Yeah.
And so in order for that to like hit us twice as hard, it's nice to pull things back in the pre.
Yeah.
So I won't write about you.
Like the
Cymbal
drums
there,
here.
too.
Yeah, I think it's so interesting what we wound up with. And I remember we worked out carefully like where those hits are going to be and where they're not.
Yeah. But even here too, it's like even this the first chorus feels reserved in what's going on.
Sure.
But
I think it's all about the drums there.
Definitely.
It's like such an exciting part,
Yeah.
We have halftime, we got the tambourine. And of course it's fun as a bass player to just live on like the one chord.
Beautifully done now.
Still have our synths going on. Yeah.
I love the pullback. Yeah, I remember working on, even like in the piano part, trying to be more reserved for the first chorus, what's going on up there, going to the upper octave and just sort of outlining the chords and very minimally, not playing too much, which I think instinctivly I wanted to do on the first chorus.
Yeah.
Because I think it does change.
I mean, let's just
second
see.
chorus.
Let's drop the needle to see how the piano part grows. All right, this is the first chorus.
Yeah.
And then at the second chorus,
Yeah.
much more developed. I mean, more of that Ben Folds vibe.
Yeah,
for sure.
exactly.
Yeah, I mean, it really helps you tell a story to be able to have the parts grow like that.
So best believe this song is not for you. I've been spending too
I want
much
to point out one thing that was a total accident that I just loved and had to keep. I was playing my Jazzmaster on this, which has a little tremolo bar.
Yeah.
And in using the tremolo bar, it like creaked against the metal and made this weird sound that then went through the amp and just, and it happened perfectly. And I love how it's like something so out of left field but sets up the second verse. This is just the guitar soloed.
Oh, damn, that's... I never knew that was a thing.
Yeah, in fact, I muted the rest of the guitar take, but...
Oh, man, I never knew that existed. We got to... We should have... That should have been at the forefront of the whole entire song right there.
Well,
just
I did
right
post
up.
it 4 dB.
No,
there,
that... That's very cool.
Yeah. Talking about subverting expectations, your little like it's like a Lydian lick, right?
Yeah.
Because like the the part is otherwise major, but
Sharp 11, or sharp 4.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
That always caught my ear in a weird way.
Yeah, that's another thing where it's like I know this part needs something, and just start experimenting, you know, and happen to gravitate towards.
So that takes us into the second verse.
Spending too much time with you on my mind again lately. It's a habit that I happen to fall right back into.
I just love the feel of
Call
this
the
whole
search
thing.
for a rhyme inside these lines that could save me.
So like Jamie takes us into, I feel like the Killers don't own this, but this like 16th notey thing, but like people associate it with them.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
It's been around far longer than them.
Now it's Jamie's things now.
Yeah.
It's Jamie's thing now.
But it's like has this like very like
like
weirdly stiff kind of energy to it.
It makes me want to just do this.
Yeah, totally.
You know.
First verse we were doing this.
Oh yeah.
So what happens here is, compared with the first verse, Jamie doubles up on the kick and doubles up on that, adds the half and has it 16 notes.
And then you're more, or you're playing more.
So yeah, I mean, it's a little bit more active, but it's a sort of a growth
essentially
of this.
from the first.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah. But I think what gives it a bit more energy in the second verse is that it's doubled to some degree with the guitars. Stereo guitars, hard pan.
Yeah.
So the guitars, you barely even notice them until they slam you right there.
Do.
And we get more melody here as well. Yeah.
And I love that because I feel like all the songs before that we've worked on, any of these other songs that I've written, they never have this sort of the guitar driven aspect, which was I loved that about this track in particular. You know, the arrangement of this, or the orchestration of it. What would you say?
Yeah, I mean,
orchestration.
The debate about what constitutes arrangement and what constitutes orchestration is as old as time. Yeah. But technically, the arrangement is something that you can then blow up into orchestration. You can distribute maybe better amongst orchestration. I think pop musicians who don't work in other music fields don't necessarily think of things in terms of orchestration, but writing guitar parts or bass parts or drum parts is just as much orchestration as writing for strings, winds, anything else.
Right. That makes sense.
It's just a function of how do we want to support the song.
Yeah.
You know, if the song is, in your case, vocal and piano is sort of like the concept of the song, how do we arrange the song could be what parts are big and what parts are small, and orchestration is, generally speaking, what the individual instruments are going to play to support that.
Yeah, and just the choice of it being more of a guitar-driven track is very exciting for me. I love,
Yeah. Well, I think you brought that to us. You wanted, even though we don't, when we play live, we play as a trio, we don't play with guitar. I think that whatever the references were that you brought automatically leaned in that direction.
Yeah.
So
we're gonna have to get you playing guitar and bass simultaneously.
Get somebody else playing guitar and I'll keep playing bass.
We can do that. Any guitarists out there? Let's do it.
Personally, and this is an arranging thing, I love a second verse surprise. It's so typical that we hear that the first verse introduces us to the vibe of the song, right? And then the second verse, okay, we've already been here. We're just setting up a second chorus. But I love when a second verse catches you off guard, and you can do that in a lot of different ways. You can do that with a reharmonization or a new section that builds off something you already had. And in this case, I think it's not only the drum energy, which we hadn't gotten before,
right?
But also the halfway point of the second verse, suddenly the sort of like muted guitar and bass energy becomes much more in your face, and we get these the synth comes back in. I'm not sure what's going on here. So this is like This is another version of the part that we had in the first verse. This thing. Right, that's sort of like the up the octave light version, and then halfway through we get it here and it's much heavier, much adds some weight to it.
Yeah, definitely.
So here we are in the, in the second verse, and halfway through suddenly like kick into gear.
Yeah.
Background vocals.
Yeah. Those are fun too.
That's our first, the first time the background vocals enter as well.
Oh, then the strings come in.
Yeah. Mute the vocals for
a lot of surprises coming through after throughout the second verse. Oh. I love that. I love that drop so much.
Yeah. The way that Jamie brings us out of that, it feels to me like running off a cliff or something,
Yeah. Yeah.
We set that up a little bit with the sweep. I guess it's the interaction of the drums and the vocal and the strings. It's like we resolved to beat 3 of the pre-chorus, thinking there's going to be a break there, which is maybe what we got in the first chorus. So we've set up the ear to expect that, and we kind of
play right through it.
Yeah. But not but only the drums, which is what I love.
Only Jamie.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. It does sound like the steps are just going right off over the edge.
Yeah, like Wile E. Coyote.
Yeah, exactly.
String entrance in the pre-chorus.
I love that with what is that like sort of wonky,
the guitar
is
thing?
that the guitar?
Yeah, that's the vibrato arm on the guitar again. And I think that also really contributes to the feeling of going over the cliff.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh yeah.
I love that the pitch bend gets caught in the delay, so you hear it like multiple times. Oh, that's cool. I forgot about that.
Yeah.
So what you hear with the guitars there, we have, of course, these like heavy strums, but they're running through a tremolo pedal that I no longer have, called the Good Keeper. Yeah, it's this sequenced tremolo pedal that this guy used to make, where you could set the subdivisions to cycle between different subdivisions. So, if this is the beat, right, it goes from like a da 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 da, whatever.
Cool.
You can program it as you want. I think I got it when I was getting into dubstep.
You got rid of it?
I did.
Oh, yeah.
They got kind of valuable, and you can recreate that effect on another pedal that has since come, like it models it.
Okay.
The Line 6 Helix pedals now do that thing as well. But I had the original, and it was very cool.
I was going to say, featured on here. That's happy.
Yeah. For the strings on this, we've got Monica Davis on violin, Tia Allen, who is an amazing violist and violinist. And so on this track, I think we had her switching back and forth between viola and violin.
Yeah.
And Emily Hope Price on cello.
Yeah.
And you can see I think we triple tracked them here. We've got 3 sets of the trio, playing beautifully.
Yes.
Yeah.
So beautiful. I could just listen to that over and over. It was also it was so much fun being in the studio listening to all 3 of them play together and watching you work with them. That was a highlight of this recording process.
Well, I think an album that came up when we were talking about this record was Silverchair's Diorama.
Yeah.
And I just love how like that album hits so hard, but like is very, has an almost like Beach Boys quality to the writing, and yet like it's really impactful.
Yeah.
And so the idea of just the feeling, the impact of like really hard hitting drums plus these like sweeping orchestral gestures was a big influence on how we treated this song.
Oof. That's so nice.
Anymore, no more, no more. Won't crawl back to your door. Those days are through.
Yeah, and Jamie, of course, switches. So we have the half time in the chorus like we did in the first chorus, but switches over to double time at the halfway point of the chorus.
Yeah. Anymore, no more, no more. No, not anymore.
The tremolo thing?
Yeah, the tremolo. Yeah.
Triple cellos.
That's beautiful.
That's Linda Briseño on trumpet. Linda is an amazing Venezuelan trumpet player and artist. She's got an incredible voice.
Yeah.
Lucky to get to play in her band. She sent me these tracks, and you can see there's 2 of them. She sent me 2 takes. Her intonation is so on, and I have worked with many trumpet players for whom that is not the case. So the first entrance here, you can see there's stuff that I had her record but muted.
Yeah.
The entrance is just solo, but then later on it's 2 trumpets. It's so together. It's so in tune. Crazy.
I would never even know that there was a second trumpet in there. You know what I mean? The same.
Yeah. But it thickens it, and
so...
it's almost, it's like a more, God, it's so high, and she played it so in tune.
Yeah.
Even though she's like a killing pop musician and an amazing jazz player, she came out of Venezuela's El Sistema, which is also what produced formerly LA Phil conductor and soon to be New York Phil conductor Gustavo Dudamel. It's like this amazing program, and so at heart she's like also a really heavy classical cat, and that's why
you can hear that.
Yeah,
that's beautiful. And I love that aside from it just being played so perfectly, the fact that there's even a trumpet on this track to me is like, it makes sense now. You got the strings, like more of the orchestral thing, but it's so, to me, it's very surprising to hear it in here in the best way possible. I mean, like, it, you know, the fact that it's with the blending of it with the sort of the more rock and the drums and that sort of feel. Yeah, you know, it's sort of out in a totally different direction, but it works so well. Yeah, you know, once the way they're blended together.
Yeah, and I think that, you know, as we get into the other songs, there's a reason why I think that we chose this song to open the album, because it introduces all of these flavors, and I don't think that we get them again in the same way in other songs, but we see them recur in different ways. There's Casey, which is like has a very chamber music energy to it, and then Pure Content is like much more on the rock side of things, but we sort of mess with it in weird ways so that it's not just straight ahead rock.
Absolutely.
So you were talking about how the trumpet is like another surprise, and we stacked these surprises, right? We've got the intro, and then we subvert the expectations when the drums first come in. Pre-chorus is another kind of surprise. Strings at the second pre-chorus is another surprise. And originally, I had the trumpet enter at the second chorus. Yeah. And I wound up muting these parts. So I don't know what this is going to sound like, but because we're here, we may as well like give it a listen. And,
no, because now we're gonna hear him like, oh, it should have been in there. It should have been in there.
I think there's a reason why we chose not to.
Yeah.
And to be honest, I think maybe part of it is not that it didn't sound good, but I think that it felt like too much too soon. Yeah. And that allows us to have the surprise at the bridge. Yeah. So this is the second pre, and we get the trumpet.
I won't write about you, no, not anymore.
Yeah, it does.
It's so high. Yes.
Yeah, it's beautiful. I mean, it sounds great, but I do remember it. I think it just felt like where we have it now, sort of how it sneaks in.
Yeah.
Towards the end, it just was more. It didn't feel like it didn't need to be such a main. It felt like it just like playing the whole thing, the part that we didn't include. It feels too much of a focus.
Yeah,
on it, you know, and then it almost felt like too orchestral in a way.
You
which
have one
took away
less.
from that.
You have one less card to play. You know, you play your cards too soon, and then it's there's less to do later on.
Yeah.
And we've already got, like, with the strings in, we're already getting such a huge impact with that second chorus without the trumpet.
Yeah.
And so the trumpet sounded great. She played it beautifully.
Of course.
But then this sort of like the landing and like, wait, is that a trumpet? Why is there a single trumpet there?
Exactly.
I think it's much more effective for the arrangement.
Yeah. And that's another great lesson from this whole process, was being like, oh, it's not always necessary. You know what I mean? Like, just because it's like, it objectively sounds great. Like, the playing's great. But it's not necessary to have to include it there at the moment. Yeah. You know, it doesn't, the moment doesn't call for it. Yeah. You know? It was a bit overkill, I remember thinking at the time.
Yeah.
And thankfully, like, you know, there was that the second half of it works beautifully, and I love that it just sort of sneaks in there. Yeah, you know, and it's not random too, because it does occur in the introduction as well. You know, and it works perfectly with the instrumentation that we've already got going throughout.
Totally, and it sets us up for more trumpet action throughout the rest.
More trumpet. Ooh.
Sort of out-of-tune delay again.
Yeah.
Guitar harmonics. You can see here. Oh, I muted. So Jamie tracked tambourine, but I muted every other one, so it's only on every fourth.
Why did you do that? What were we feeling?
I always have an ear out for making a bigger loop, so to speak. And of course, this isn't like a very loopy song. Yeah. But in pop music, a lot of things, especially drum parts, are constructed of some sort of repeated part. And something that, to my ears, makes a repeated part more interesting is varying it. So if the loop is 1 bar, if you make it 2 and have a slight variation in the second bar, then your ear gets less tired of it, you know, and it can create a sense of balance. Not because, like, when you hear a 1 bar part, there's balance between the kick and the snare.
Yeah.
Right. But if you have if it's a 2 bar part and maybe you displace the snare.
Right.
That was actually displace the kick. You know, there you add a little more interest.
Yeah.
And then if you take that and you turn that into a 4 bar part or an 8 bar part where there's still repetition, but you vary it on the end, it does all those things that we were talking about before, where you set up expectations and you subvert them. And I think that applies not just to drum parts, but really to everything. It applies to melody, it applies to lyrics, chord progressions. I'm always thinking about how to get our ears used to something, but then not too used to something. Yeah. And so I think that with the tambourine, that's why I chopped it up like that, is because 2, 3. We've got the kick on 2 and 4. 2, 3. It adds more of a like release to the second half of the bar. Definitely. We should check out your piano stuff here too.
Right, and this is what we were talking about before with using the intro, bringing it back to this one.
And I love that decision that you made to go to the 6th chord.
Yeah.
My friend Luke Geyer once told me, in half in jest, that the only decision that matters in life is when you go to the 6th chord.
Should always go to the 6th chord. Always find a way there.
Well, but the thing that matters is when you go to the 6th chord.
Fair.
You know, and so we have discussions like, well, so where would you put it? Like 5th bar, 6th bar?
Gotta go there eventually. When's it gonna happen?
Yeah, but if you play it too early, then you can't go to the 6th chord later.
That's true.
And so what you've done with this whole bridge is that we're building this chord progression, right?
Yeah.
1, like major 7, 6, so like 1 6th chord, and then you like a 4 minor. Chord progression repeats 4 times, and we finally get that landing on the 6.
Yeah. I love the sustained.
Yeah.
You know.
We also had a fun guitar part there. For whatever reason, that when this guitar comes in, it felt like very Smashing Pumpkins to me.
Yeah.
Even though the chords are like not super Smashing Pumpkins, but
Yeah, to hear like that sort of the distortion in the guitar and like but side by side with the strings, it's like beautiful. It's so
sweet and sour.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe we'll listen to this whole breakdown bit.
Sure.
Strings and trumpet are out for 2 bars as to leave room for the guitar. And then they're back in. 6th chord is the section heading.
How to label it.
Yeah. Oh, you've also got some really fun background vocals in here as well.
Wow. Too many mics.
How many mics do you rip on a daily?
Yeah, that was so much fun. This was a fun day recording these.
Yeah.
I love coming here and figuring out the harmony parts together. We did that all for this record and then the last one too.
Yeah.
Just coming here and sort of winging it.
Yeah.
Seeing what works.
We were pretty spare on background vocals on this particular track, right? We've got some...
More like...
I've always searched for a rhyme inside these lines. Save me.
Yeah, they're
in
pretty
there.
spare.
No, not anymore. No,
Doubling those up.
no.
There's other tracks where we did more background vocals,
100%,
certainly on the last record, but we don't really get
They
that
use
into
more
the
like
bridge.
pads and...
Yeah.
Yeah.
And to be honest, it's almost more of the orchestral texture, you know?
Yeah.
Like you blend into the orchestra in that way.
Yeah.
Too bad we didn't get like a full-on choir.
Just need more mics.
More mics. So then this bridge finally resolves into our 3rd chorus, which is like... I feel like maybe we tried different kinds of breakdowns here. Like maybe there was one that was like full on drums out, but I love that pull the rug out and it's like all drums and vocals.
Yeah.
No more, no more. No, not anymore. No more, no more. It's nothing like before. Those
And it's great that I feel like Jamie's so playful throughout the part. It's not just like a straight thing. Like he's really, you know.
You know what's interesting? This version of the session, I think predates an edit we made in the mix.
Oh, where it drops out?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because...
It's nothing like
right.
before.
Oh, wow, yeah.
I think that...
Oh, that's so funny.
So Jack DeBoe mixed this track and the whole record, and I think at some point in the mix, you were like, I really need that vocal line to pop out.
And wanted it to be more of a moment. And so, we did remove that little bit there. So it does sort of cut out, I think. And then there's some sort of sweep or something that happens in there.
And we tried a couple different options too, right? Like, where does it sit? But I think that it was something like this.
No more. It's nothing like before.
Yeah.
And it was very fortunate that it really works well with the string run that happens.
Yes.
It
Yes.
kind of sets it up nicely.
That was fortunate.
So you can see we recorded tambourine throughout this whole breakdown, but the tambo, I muted it so it only comes in halfway through, and that's a nice little kick up the energy.
Oh, yeah. Trumpet in there.
Yeah.
So,
And we should also call attention to Jamie skips the first backbeat when we get to double time. I don't know if that was on purpose or not, but I love it because we've already had this in the second chorus. We've had the effect of going from halftime to double time.
yeah.
Right? So we know what that's like.
Right.
And this time we're like, well, what's it going to be? Is it going to stay in halftime? Is it going to go to double time?
Oh, yeah.
Instead we get the kick, but the snare doesn't come till 4.
That comes in. I love how hard that comes in.
I feel like we tried a bunch of different options for where that should be as well, like where it opens up.
It's so nice. It's so beautiful. I feel it's such a gift to be able to listen to it like in this way,
Yeah.
I love that.
Oh, I'm glad you dig it.
Yeah, so much to hear it like this,
Yeah. And then let's see what's going on with the rhythm section here. Back to the 4-on-the-floor build.
Yeah. Comes down.
I mean, for anybody who hasn't played guitar, I think that is like the most fun shit to play, where you're just like sawing away at the instrument.
Dude, that moment in the song, like playing that live, is so much fun. Like even just like having played it together, like that moment, even playing it without the guitar, it's so much fun to do. Like I just love how it opens up like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And where it opens up is part of the surprise, I think.
Yeah.
Because it happens on the 6th bar of the phrase, I think, where we expect it to be the 7th or the 9th. Like we think it's going to go a little bit further, and it comes out of nowhere.
Yeah.
I've also got some background vocals here, another one of those pads. Yeah, that comes in right when the drums change.
Wow, I didn't ever pick up on that other part. What was that little line of me singing there?
Song is not for you, my God. I hope that's true. This can't be another song for you.
Yeah. So talk to me about this outro.
Yeah, I remember we had some debates about like trying to figure out how many times I'd be saying it or when it, like what, beat it may fall on. And at least like lyrically in the moment of this song, this is sort of the moment where he realizes what he's done. You know what I mean? He realizes that I'm not over this person. I finally get it. Like, I can't believe it. And it's supposed to feel very internal and very, this guy's in his head, but finally sort of understands what he's done here. And I think the repetition of just for you sort of drives home the fact that it has always been for her. Originally, I had repeated it a lot more, and then I think we decided to cut out a few of them. And the choice to sort of give it a little more space.
For you.
I used to go, I'd say have some.
So that's halfway through the phrase. Yeah.
Yeah, and I love it being the final, like right on the last, hit there. I say, for you. You know, I mean that's.
Yeah. So here's another expectation that we've set up and subverted.
Right.
Is that you lead into the first bar, you lead into the fifth bar. That's 4-bar phrases are square, and then you lead into the eighth bar, which is actually, it's not the next phrase, it's the end of the phrase.